this document to be tabled. Is there any objection? There is no objection. Question number 4, Catherine Delahunty.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker.
Order. I've called Catherine Delahunty. Order. Order. Now look, I just asked some of the front bench members to show some courtesy to a backbench member, or a member not sitting at the back of the House. It's totally unreasonable to carry on those interjections. Catherine Delahunty.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker. Tēnā koutou te whare. To the Minister of Women's Affairs, does she consider she's doing enough to close the gender pay gap, given the Herald Digi-poll today that showed 65% of women believed they were paid less because of their gender?
The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, while the gender pay gap is the lowest it has ever been at 10.6%, there is always more that can be done.
Catherine Delahunty.
Supplementary, Mr. Speaker. Does she agree with the 65% of women polled by the Herald who consider they get paid less than men because of their gender?
The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Mr. Speaker, as the member knows, because we've had a very detailed meeting about this matter, there are numerous causes of the gender pay gap, and therefore there are a range of solutions. I cannot be responsible for the Herald Digi-poll's views as they are reported.
Catherine Delahunty.
Supplementary. Does she support allowing women to learn how much their equivalent male colleagues earn by requiring employers to report on gender pay in the workplace?
The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Mr. Speaker, again, as the member well knows, because of the detailed discussion that I have had with her, there are already mechanisms under the Equal Pay Act 1972 that provide for an employee who believes that they are being discriminated upon on the grounds of gender and other things to make a complaint to the Labour Department, whereupon that complaint can be investigated, including requiring the provision of documents by their employer.
Catherine Delahunty.
Does she consider that the current system, whereby women have to take a case against their employer under the Human Rights Act or the Equal Pay Act 1972, is actually working? If so, why?
The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Mr. Speaker, as the member knows, we are concerned that given the underuse of this mechanism that it may not be as well promoted as it could be, and we are working on how we can promote that opportunity to women who may feel that they are being discriminated against.
Catherine Delahunty.
Supplementary. How can her suggested solution of career guidance for women deal with the quote-unquote unconscious bias of employers against equal pay and pay equity for women?
The Honourable Hekia Parata.
I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, can I ask that the question
Most
be
certainly,
repeated?
the Minister can. Could Catherine Delahunty please repeat her question?
How can her suggested solution of career guidance for women deal with the quote-unquote unconscious bias, a comment of the ministers, of employers against equal pay and pay equity for women?
The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In fact, my comment relates to the point I made earlier, that is that there are a number of causes of the gender pay gap. They include occupational segregation, whereby half of all men and women are employed in occupations where 70% or more are of the same gender. There is a requirement for greater flexibility in workplaces. We know that the career guidance that is offered to students often result in girls choosing more lower paid trade options than boys. So we are working with the Minister of Education to address that. We are focusing on...
Point of order, Catherine Delahunty.
I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, but I asked the Minister about dealing with the unconscious bias of employers, and we haven't heard anything relating to that at all.
Well, if I recollect the point of order has been called. If I recollect the member's question, she started out the question by asking something about guidance for women, and I think the Minister's answering that part of the question. Supplementary.
Question, Mr. Speaker, because it was linked. The question was her solution. How would it deal with the bias of employers?
Order. The member can't expect the Minister to answer the question exactly the way she might want to. I think the Minister has answered that question. Catherine Delahunty.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order. Catherine
I
Delahunty.
asked a question about a career guidance dealing with the unconscious bias of the employer. I haven't heard an answer on that question.
Well, I'm sorry, because I have. A supplementary question, Catherine Delahunty.
Perhaps this is the issue. Supplementary to the Minister.
Order. Catherine Delahunty.
Why is the government putting the burden on individual women to search for pay information and take action against their employers to solve the system-wide discrimination against women?
The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure that the member has any evidence for system-wide discrimination. What we have in New Zealand is three pieces of legislation that together provide the opportunity for men and women alike who feel that they are subject to some kind of discrimination to be able, as has been traditional in this constitutional democracy, pursue their rights.
Carol Beaumont.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Supplementary to the Minister. What decision has the Minister made on my request that the government pick up the pay equality bill drafted by the Human Rights Commission, which would provide real mechanisms to address pay inequality?
The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Mr. Speaker, I am continuing to read the report provided by the Human Rights Commissioner. My officials are studying what the proposal is. The proposal is distinctly different conceptually from the current approach that New Zealand has used for discrimination. It takes some time to consider it.
Question number 5, the Honourable David Cunliffe.
Speaker.